Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another stream with Swaggle Haas, a very special early edition, a Thursday at 12:30 Pacific. Not the usual time that I fire up a live stream unless we're covering a heritage auction, but I feel like this is just as good as far as, the value of the pieces that we're going to be talking about today, the value of, some of the original art we're going to be showing. It almost feels like this could be a signature heritage auction. So it feels appropriate that we're starting at this time regardless. But we have a very special show today in honor of the Thunderbolts, which actually comes out technically tomorrow, this weekend. But I mean, there's Thursday showings. I thought it'd be kind of cool to have some special friends of the channel. We got Xatari, we got Dinesh, we got Andrew here to show off some of their amazing original art pieces that actually connect to a lot of the characters in the Thunderbolts movies. But then maybe more importantly, I thought that we could have like just a good conversation about original art. I've expressed on the channel before that I've had a lot of interest in original art as of late. I've been picking up pieces, and I got a lot of questions that I have for the three gentlemen that are joining today. And if you guys have questions in the chat that you have about original art, I think these are three guys that are going to be great to talk to about it and learn more about the hobby. And I think that that's an interesting thing because it feels like a lot of comic book fans and comic book collectors, naturally find their way into comic art collecting. So take this video or stream as a good resource. But with that said, if you guys could welcome to the channel, we got Mike Xatari, we got Andrew, and we got Dinesh from Bad Idea. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining today. It's good to see you. How you guys doing?
Awesome, man.
Good, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great to have you on. I appreciate you taking the time. I've been wanting to do more original art content. And I feel like you guys are some of the best people to talk about or to talk to, excuse me, within the original art space. So it's good to have you. But before we kind of get into like the nitty gritty and the weeds and stuff, I'd love to just maybe quickly go around the room, and if you guys can just sort of introduce yourself to the audience, maybe just say how you got into maybe comic book collecting before, and then how you found yourself into original art. But Xatari, let me start with you.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Mike. I got into comic book collecting, obviously reading comics as a kiddo in the 80s and 90s. So really in that height of the New Mutants, 87 through 100 run into X-Force, and just loved like Rob Liefeld, McFarlane, Jim Lee, like everything that was going on the Marvel side into the Image side. So that's kind of the era I grew up around. Would save all my money every week to go down to the comic shop and get my pulls. And so then, fast forward after having, kiddos and being married, I got back into comics, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, and started buying some slabs and really going after some of the stuff I couldn't afford as a kiddo. Like, so I got, my Hulk 181 and my Hulk 180. And then as I was sort of getting back into comics, I met Dinesh, and Dinesh was always at every convention looking at all of the original art. And I was like, what is this guy doing, man? Like, it's so foreign to me. I can't figure out what he's doing. He's like, man, this is the next evolution of the hobby, from my perspective. And so, I watched him for a couple months, and then, then I just dipped my toe and never looked back. I loved it. So I don't have many books left. I do have some really, some fun slabs that I collected over the years, but for the most part, I rolled most of that stuff into original art now and just love it. So Xatari, that name actually came from a website my friends and I were doing. We had Xatari.com for just a side endeavor we were doing. So you'll see that on Instagram sometimes and stuff, but it's just kind of a goofball thing that we started.
Andrew, what about you?
Pretty similar story. I grew up reading comics in the 90s and then kind of moved on to animated shows mostly was how I connected with the IP. But I have a collecting problem, so I continued to collect comic books throughout that time. And then, shortly around before or slightly after COVID started, I'd been collecting, a random page or so when I went to comic conventions, but my comic book collection was pretty much done at that point. And so I started getting into the art side as it started to blow up. And I, met people through the space. Mike was one of the first guys that really pulled me in and introduced me to his crew. So I met Dinesh, and I've been kind of discovering myself as an art collector over the years. But what I've come to realize is what I collect has been pretty much decided by these two people, because my nostalgic point is the 90s, but Dinesh got there before I could. And if I'm going to get a page from like Wolverine 75, I want a Bone Claw page, and all like the important pages from those books, they're like all gone, and you just can't. They're just not available. So I'm like, okay, 90s isn't going to really be my thing, unless some type of lottery ticket chance happens where something gets offered. And then Mike over here, he knows like what the hot thing is before anyone else does. So he got into Miles, he got Spider-Gwen, somebody's killing the children, all that stuff. So I can't compete with him there. So I was forced into this like 2000s to like 2010 area of collecting where like the stuff that Mike hasn't gotten yet or Dinesh doesn't already have. So that's my sweet spot. And so I got lucky, especially like when it comes to like Thunderbolts, that like a lot of those characters and stuff are in that little window that they left me. So that's kind of me as a collector.
Awesome.
Well, we're definitely going to show off some of those pieces, so cool to hear about that. But Dinesh, what about you? I mean, I'm sure most of the audience knows because you've been on the channel before about, your career kind of in comic creating and stuff. But I guess when did you kind of go from maybe comic collecting to art, or have you always been into art?
No, haven't. But I just want to say, I love the tale of woe that Andrew's spinning. Don't be fooled, anybody. Don't sell him.
I know.
You feel bad for him.
He's a killer. What are you talking about?
We all do. We all pretend, and then we're like, oh no, I don't have anything cool. Sell me that. How did I get into it? I never really collected big books or art when I was running Valiant. Too busy. So I wanted to focus on the business. Had to be responsible. I was at tons of shows, but would never really look at the books. I wish I had. Obviously, at this point, the prices are so much higher. But when I left Valiant, when it changed hands, I had more time than I had in decades, and I loved comics, and I missed having something comics that would consume me. And so I thought to myself, I'll get kind of low grade, ratty, ungraded copies of all the Silver Age keys. I never had an Avengers 1 or Tailspin 39. I'll buy those. And then I bought those, and then I thought, well, I'll get them graded, and they came back 1.0s, 0.5s, 1.5s, and I thought maybe I could upgrade a little bit, and that's the deep well. So you upgrade a little bit, and then more and more, and then I started buying the best copies I could find. And then I built my wife's idea, actually. I built a commercial grade showcase comic room in my apartment. And I thought, I'll fill it up with every comic book that anyone could ever come over. I made it into work again. I was thinking, people come over, I have meetings, I'll prove my bona fides. I'll fill it up with every major comic book anyone could ever want. If someone's like, do you have this book? I do. It's over here. It's over there. And then I did that. And because I made some money at Valiant, it was easy to do because you can find the books. Books aren't hard to find. And then Mike's saying the last level is if you're a drug addict and you go to Columbia, it's over for you. And original art is the Columbia of comics. It's the uncut stuff. It's amazing to hold it. It's got blood, sweat, and tears on it. The artist, you can see phone numbers on the back, doodles, what they were doing in their life. It's the thing that's the originating component of our medium. It's super hard to track down. People don't let it go because there's no substitute for it. You can't get another copy. You can't upgrade your copy. Pieces have been destroyed. And so the treasure hunt aspect, it's the ultimate treasure hunt.
Yeah.
So quickly after I sold Valiant, probably the end of 2018, within a year, I was deep into original art on Heritage and Comic Link, Comic Connect, at shows, meeting guys like this. It's been such a joy, by the way. The community that we found ourselves in with a bunch of other art collectors has been the best part of it, frankly.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Even just like for me and my journey, and I think what a lot of like people who watch my channel, like I kind of through osmosis sort of feel some people's transitions where, it's very much like what you said, Dinesh, where it's like, okay, you get that one comic you've always been wanting to get, maybe it's a vintage one, and then you slightly upgrade it. And you're always kind of looking for that next chase and the next hunt. And sometimes it's not always about the value. It's just finding the thing that you want. And as you collect comics for, years now at this point, because I kind of feel like most people who watch my channel, we're sort of all from this like kind of COVID resurgence in collecting. And now we're all kind of in year 5 of that. So a lot of people have kind of gotten what they have been looking for. And now they're looking for that next hit or the next interesting thing to go after. And so I think a lot of people are kind of doing what you guys have sort of already done with your journeys, where it's like now they're kind of looking for original art and stuff like that. And so I'm throughout the show, I definitely want to ask, some of your guys' questions and processes. And even for you, Andrew, it's like, like finding pieces that, you shared a story with me where it's like you kind of like buying a bunch of different stuff and you were like, wait a minute, what do I actually want to get? And it's like, I'm interested to hear about how you guys trade, your art as well. Because one thing for me is, with comic books, if I find a comic that is a key issue, it's a ASM 129, it's the first Punisher. Like I'll buy anything that's like a decent deal, knowing that if I ever want to let it go, I can sell this pretty easy. It's pretty easy to move. But art, not so much. It's a little more complicated, I would say. So I want to get into that, but before we get there, I do want to kind of set up our show a little bit because, like I mentioned at the beginning, we are at the release of Thunderbolts, which
Amazing.
I believe, Xatari, I think you're going to watch this movie tonight. Is that right?
Yep.
All of us are watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty exciting. I think the early reviews are pretty positive so far.
Very
And
Monster reviews.
Yep.
Yeah.
what's that?
Monster reviews. I mean, what's it sitting at in Rotten Tomatoes? It's like 90 something. It's crazy. People love it.
90 something. I think Metacritic is like very, very high as well, which is like to put it in perspective, I think the Metacritic score is like above like Infinity War, which I mean, that's like pretty full praise.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting because you guys have a lot of original art pieces relating to some of the comic book art related to these characters. And so I titled the show, which maybe we can unpack this a little bit, is should comic collectors be pursuing art versus comics? Because I've made videos on the channel talking about some of these books like Inhumans 5 and stuff. It's like there's people that are interested in buying it, but they're not necessarily buying it at the same prices that they once were. But you guys happen to have some of those pieces, so maybe you can talk about some of this stuff and kind of weigh in. I'll start with you, Mike. I mean, what do we got right here?
So this is cool. This is from Inhumans 5. So Jay Lee, and I loved this page. So in that issue, I think there's only 3 pages with Yolena on it. So this is Yolena's first sort of story that she's in, and she really is kind of shadowed the whole time. But everything about this page I loved. I mean, when you talk about like a debut page for a character, here's this just like smoking hot spy on a vintage like Japanese sports car. It's like an Acura NSX, which is a funny story. A couple people know this, but during COVID, I actually had a black Acura NSX exactly like this and sold it to buy comic book art, which all my friends who are, total like, grease monkeys were like, what are you doing, man? You're crazy. But so I had this exact car. I'll send you pictures. And I just loved everything about this page. So it's just menacing, she's going after the dude. And Jay Lee's fantastic. So, again, kind of my peak of when I was starting to read, Jay Lee was really coming on the scene with like Youngblood. What was it? Strike File, I think. He just did some really, really cool stuff with the Image guys. And so I love Jay. And this is some great work from him. And certainly, with only 3 pages from that issue with Yolena on it, this was sort of a needle in the haystack, right? It's pretty cool to see these things up close and personal.
Yeah. So like, what was the deal? Because even Andrew, you were saying like in the 2000s, like nobody was really going for that art. And I've kind of like heard it from you guys where like even in the art world, there's a lot of people kind of like comics where it's like you got your vintage guys and you got your modern guys. But a lot of the vintage people for a long time were kind of overlooking a lot of this stuff. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say the average age historically of the art collecting community is probably in like the 40s to 60 range, right? And a lot of those guys stopped reading comic books like in the 80s and 90s. They just stopped reading them. So when I was buying this type of art, like no one knew who this character was in the art collecting community. So I think, I got a page from this issue for like $1,500 at the time, right? And like it just was unfathomable. You're like, why would anyone pay this for a character that we don't know? So that, that's kind of what you deal with. So your audience certainly is like more in line with the stuff that I collect because it's modern, right? There's some really cool modern pieces that are out. And when I came into this community, I know that I couldn't compete with like the Frank Miller Dark Knight pages. Those are sort of like the pinnacle of what like historically the art community collects, the Miller Daredevil run. Those pages go for 6 figures. And I don't have that kind of money. Like I can't drop that kind of money on pages. And so I looked at what I could afford to get into the hobby. And so I just made a list. I went through some of the apps. I used things like Key Collector and looked at like, characters, who are the top characters from this decade. and I would just sort them out. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm going after every issue. I'm just going to start hunting every issue that I can find on this list and pages from those issues. And if they have the character on them, like, I don't want pages without the character. I really want the character on there. And that's what I did. I'm a first appearance collector. You know, there's a lot of different ways to collect art in this hobby, but I kind of keep my lane in first appearances because I feel like that keeps me grounded and keeps me on task. You know, it's really easy. If you come into this hobby with money, you could blow, you know, $1 million, like nothing. Like, truly, you could just blow $1 million, like, in a couple of days, just buying rad art. There's so much good art out there. So really having kind of a focus, I think, is a piece of advice. Like, that's my first piece of advice I'd give any new collector, anybody who's looking to get into the hobby. Make a list before you even, you know, kind of dip your toe and see what you're really after, so you're not kind of easily, you know, chasing squirrels.
That's really good advice. Mike is absolutely right. I think all of us have done that. Whether it's, I want an example from this artist, or I love this series, or I love this character, or whatever that list looks like, whatever combination, it's so important to keep focused.
Yeah.
So Mike, is this like, tell me about, like, when you got this page,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm trying to lead you somewhere because this is something you shared with me. It's like, so you're thinking to yourself, like, this book comes out, or I guess this is a little bit older, but, you know, let's say that this is a modern comic book. It comes out and you're looking up who the artist is, and you're like, well, maybe the artist has a rep, and you're like DMing that person and like saying, hey, is this thing for sale? And so you're kind of really proactively like finding these pieces, right?
I am like a dog with a bone. I love the treasure hunt, like, you know, to Dinesh's point. So I sort of have a system that I use, right? When I'm first looking at art, so I have to identify the issue, right? So I get that. Typically, I'll get it from Key Collector. I'll get that information, or like the CGC forums. You can find a lot of that information there. So I take the issue, and then I find out who the artist is from there. A lot of times I'll use Comic Art Fans. So it's a website that has become sort of one of the hubs of the hobby. And you can see if anyone's posted art from that artist or issue. And so that'll be my next sort of phase is, does somebody already have this thing, and would they be willing to part with it? So if I see someone who owns it, I'll reach out and I'll just say, hey, you know, I'd love to make you an offer on it, you know, or would you be open to parting with this? Try to be respectful and know that people can be private about that stuff, but I just reach out. I have no shame. Like I work in finance. So I work for a bank, and I train salespeople how to cold call. And so it's kind of the same idea, right? Like I'm used to cold calling, getting a lot of rejection. Anyone who's worked in cold calling or telemarketing, like, you're used to a lot of rejection, and you just kind of develop thick skin. If someone's not interested, no big deal. I move on. Right. So that's kind of my next phase is I'll go and look on Comic Art Fans. Now, if it's a new piece, right, if it's a piece that's coming out, a lot of times these artists have their contact information right on social media, right? Like, you can go to Instagram and message an artist directly. Like, if they have a piece that you want that's coming out, you saw it in a preview magazine, just go message the artist and see if they have it available. A lot of times they'll have an art rep that they'll work through. And so they may direct you to the art rep and say, hey, go talk to Jason Schachter and see if he has that still, because they'll send their art to a rep, right? So the rep may have all their art on file, or go talk to Joseph Damon, like if you're looking for Humberto Ramos, right? So I'll call Joe and say, Joe, do you have, this piece from this issue? And I'll send him a scan or a pic from, that I saw. And then, you'd be surprised at how often it's like, yeah, that's coming up, or I have it. It's not yet ready to go, but here's kind of the number I'm thinking. And so that's a lot of what I'm buying right now is stuff that's coming out that I'm interested in, and I'll go directly to the artist or to the rep. Does that help a little bit?
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah.
One thing is Mike is the best at this. So if anyone's watching this and going, oh, I'm going to do what Mike is doing, you're going to be one step behind him the entire time. But
yeah, you need to be doing it right now while he's on stream, not available to be DMing.
I'll be seeing Thunderbolts tonight at 9, so you'll have a good 2.5 hour window.
In fact, so for a period of time, I'm not going to get into too many details, but I was the base collector of a certain book and artist, and I had trouble getting a certain page, and I kind of gave up. And Mike, sometime after me, was able to get it, and I shared with him that I was happy for it, but I was also bummed because there's something I was going to go after. He's also the coolest dude in the world, who's just like, I'll give it to you at my cost. I know you really want this, and I know it'll make you happy. And he's just like the coolest dude on the planet. So like do that, because no one else I know would have done that. But it's just a huge benefit of being friends with him is that like he can just find and get stuff that no one else I know can do. So I just want to kind of
thanks, man.
stroke his ego a little bit right now.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. My head's not going to fit on the screen anymore. It's just getting too big.
Well, Andrew, tell me about this page. When you sent this one to me, I was pretty excited about it because this one was one. I think that this came out like 2018 or something, and this was like right when I personally was getting back into comic book reading. So I remember. I think this is a Jeff Lemire story.
Yes. So I'll be truthful. I'm not a huge fan of the story, and this comes into kind of how I collect versus maybe how other people collect. So this is Brian Hitch, Century stories have been hit or miss, but this cover has been pretty much everywhere when it comes to the Century. And what I like to point to is not a lot of people read comic books that much anymore relative to like when we were growing up. And I noticed a lot of people get exposed to stories by going on YouTube and watching like Comic Books Explained or whatever those things are. That's there's certain images that are just used over and over and over again for thumbnails and whatever. And this is one of them. And this is how I originally was exposed to this cover was I saw it on his Wikipedia page. I saw it, in the Marvel Wiki. I saw it on thumbnails and everything like Who's the Century Explained. So this is how I was exposed to that image. And then I went back and read it afterwards, and that wasn't really the driver for me wanting this. And that might be very different than how other people are. Here's Summit. So that's kind of, I think, thinking about, because I hear older collectors say all the time, like they were exposed to this image because it was on a poster at this comic book shop, and they saw it over and over and over again. And so that's kind of like our generation's version of that. And I kind of let that inform my collecting a little bit because, when I see people really chase a page at auction or whatever, it comes down to like, this is the image for them. Right. And for me, like, for the Century, I think there's a handful of stuff, and this is one of those images that no matter what the story is or whatever, this is the image people keep going back to show that character. And I think I even sent you, which was a surprise to me and tying into the Thunderbolts film, which I think also may be interesting for people trying to figure out how to collect art around what's happening in the MCU, etc. Is this was very clearly used as the inspiration for an action figure that's coming out. And they set up the posing and everything right off of this image, which I thought was a cool nod to this. And I don't know, I also think the art's great. I think Hitch is a little undervalued. And so he has a lot of, cool covers from that time period and earlier.
He is undervalued. You're right. He's a genius. This cover's awesome, but his art is relatively cheap compared to others that are not quite as good. He's
going to have a major come up with the Authority and all the stuff that's coming out, though.
Yeah. It's funny you said that, Andrew, because I feel like one big thing in the art world that at least I've been hearing about, and shout out to 99 Newsstand who's in the chat. It's like we've been talking about like toy box art and like key art, and it's the point that you're making where it's like that's the image that just people saw. At least when they were kids, or is the one that is constantly recycled as like, again, shout out to Comics Explained. Like if he's doing a video about a story, he's going to use a certain image that's like, oh, this is the iconic image related to that character. And so sometimes like finding that piece is some of the most interesting stuff. But
Mickey, that's another that you guys brought up too. And it's different than comic collecting. So in comic collecting, a lot of times you're chasing the rarest thing, right? Like you're chasing that one variant, maybe it's like 1 in 1,000, incentive variant. That's really rare. In art, it's kind of the opposite because everything is sort of the same rarity. Everything is one of one, right? A lot of times what the things that are worth the most are the things that were the most produced because they're the most recognizable, right? So you think about like an X-Force 1, right? That cover, everyone knows. It's not worth as much as like something that, is super rare. Like think about like the Delato, like Spider-Man cover, something like that. It's not worth as much, but in art, it was probably worth even more because everybody knows it, right? Infinity Gauntlet, all those covers, everybody knows those covers, right? So it's actually the A covers that you think about today that are worth more in the art side because they're more recognizable.
It's a really good point, because off the top of my head, I can't think of a single variant cover.
Yeah,
the artwork is worth more than the A cover.
I can think of one because I chased this for a long time, and it's Captain Marvel 16, the second print.
Sure, yeah.
That's the one example that like I think really stands out. Where,
but
the
most
most exceptions to the
known
rule,
cover.
right?
Yeah, and it's because it's the characters on it. She's not on the A cover, right?
Yeah,
that's the one that people has chased. But for the most part, you're dead on. So that's just a big shift coming from comics.
It's almost like if you were going to stack rank, like what creates value or desirability, it's aesthetics is probably number one, and then two is like notoriety, but it's like a close, 1A, 1B.
Yep. Or significance. A lot of people collect like I've heard them say the moments or the significant event, like those types of things, right? This is the page where Thanos snaps, or this is the, whatever, that someone got their powers or whatever it is, like transformation. You'll hear that sometimes, like this is a transformation page. This is, Banner transforming into Hulk, or, Johnny Blaze transforming into Ghost Rider. Those get a premium in the art world.
Right. Well, what about this one, Dinesh? This is the one that you sent over. Like, how funny is it that's like, it's like, oh yeah, I got that one. First issue with a Winter Soldier in it. How'd you come across this one?
This was a dealer had this. I didn't buy from a dealer. A dealer had this, and he was very kind. He called me and he said, "Hey, I know you love this character in this book. I think you're going to really want this. I just got this in." And I said, "Oh my God, amazing! I'd love to have it. What's the ask?" And he told me the ask. I was like, "There's no way I'm paying that. That's twice. I think I said twice as much as I would the top end of where I'd go." And he was like, "Yeah, it's expensive. I know. Look, it's not. If it was me, I'd find room, but it's a consignment. That's what the seller wants." He had it for maybe a month. Another collector bought it. I got to know that collector. I bought something else from him, and I guess the kind of transaction was easy for the collector. Calls me one day and he says, "I'm buying a collection of comics. I want some quick cash. You love this Cap cover." I said, "Yeah, but I don't want to pay anywhere what you paid." He said, No, it's cool. How about half?" I was like, "Why? That doesn't make any sense." He's like, "If you can get me paid tomorrow, I'll take half. I'm very happy. I overpaid. I know it. I don't really like it anymore. I want to buy this collection." Worked out. That's how I got it. Sometimes they fall in your lap. It was nice.
That's interesting. So it's like it's letting pieces come to you has been a big thing, as opposed to not always just chasing.
For me, we all have different strategies. Andrew, Mike, myself. You lean into your strengths. Because I work in publishing, I'm a little more out there.
Yeah.
I do a lot of conventions. I meet a lot of people in comics. I do a lot of shows like this, and I'm very open about my art and often what I paid and what I'm thinking about it, what my collection looks like, which is a little different. Andrew and Mike are the same way, but a little different than older collectors. The mentality when we all got into collecting was, don't let anyone see your art, black hole it. The fresh to market was a term that I'd never heard in comics, but you hear in art all the time, which is, no one has seen this piece in 20 years. Here it is for sale now, fresh to market. And there's this perception that it'll sell faster or sell for more money if you do it that way. I don't think that's the case. So I try to be very open about what I own and promote it and put up on different websites, come to shows like this and talk about what I like. And then people call.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's like, someone mentioned in the chat where they were like, they were kind of asked, as you guys were talking, they're asking questions of like, I don't understand why people, buy these like 1 in 1,000 variant covers, blah, 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 when it's like, you maybe could track down the original art piece for that. And you're maybe not that far off, as far as like, if you're paying $1,000 for a piece like that, like, and I think it's interesting because I think, and so they were saying, why don't people just do that? And I think it is not a lot of people realize they can do that. Not a lot of people realize those art pieces are available. And Dinesh, to what you're saying, like, sometimes it's kind of important to be like, hey, I have this art piece. Like maybe there's somebody out there who's like the biggest Captain America fan or Winter Soldier fan. They didn't know it existed, or they don't know where to go to even start to look at it. Like, is building that network, like, I know that you said that that's your style, but do you think that that's kind of where the art world is moving towards? Like this existence on CAF and stuff like that?
Some people are, some people aren't. It's just, I'll be honest, it's just fun though, because what you do is you get to meet these people, and then if you're in the same town, you go and visit somewhere, you go over and you see their collection. It's just like comics, but with art, it's not, here's my 9.8 graded copy of this book, which you probably also have or have seen before or can get. It's that show. It's here's this like this cover. Here's this people come over, they'll look at the cover and they're like, oh my God, there it is. And they'll look at it, they'll look at the back, they'll look at the signatures, they'll look at everything about it. And it'll be an experience. You'll see, wow, I didn't realize you did that with the effect. It's a little like white out here. The brush marks, the pen marks, any kind of erasing, any kind of stuff that's covered up, stats, it all becomes part of the experience. So you go over and you share it. Mike and I were at the Kirby exhibit yesterday that opened up at the Skirball in LA. And we met so many art collectors. For me, a lot of new art collectors, because I'm not a Kirby super freak. I have some Kirby pieces, but there were some real Kirby super freaks. And hearing their stories about how long they've been collecting. A couple of them came over last night. We were looking at a bunch of different art. It was fun to share. So that's, I think, a big part of being out there and getting to know people is you get to share it.
Yeah.
The community element of this is really important. If you're a person who just kind of keeps themselves, you will be able to get access to great stuff on Heritage. Like that stuff will pop up. But I can't tell you how many things you would be interested in if you're not going to conventions and meeting people and talking to collectors and letting people know what it is you're interested in and building relationships. You won't see half the stuff. They're offered privately and they're gone within a day. And you don't even get the opportunity. You just need to, like, it's, I guess it's how the world works, but this is also like a small community that's kind of been insulated for a long time, where you just need to know the right people that happen to have that stuff. And like we have community sites like CAF, but truthfully, it's not that big and it's not that active.
Yeah.
Hey,
interesting, because speaking of CAF, we have other pieces that I definitely want to still show with you guys, but I thought that this would be interesting because on CAF they do these little market data reports of private sales and stuff, and I don't know if you guys have opinions on this. Like, I don't know if these numbers are 100% accurate or not accurate, but I thought that this was interesting because Wolverine 400 has been kind of a big talk of the town, and I guess the full issue cover by Daniel Warren Johnson sold for $90,000.
Yeah.
And I guess my question to you guys is, A, what do you think about that sale? And then B, like, talk to me about like pricing. Like, here you have this new issue, this new comic, this new artist that comes out. Like, where did 90,000 come from? Was that like the list price that he knew that right off the bat, this is what I want to sell it for? Was this the dealer who, negotiated that out? Like, how does one
You're going to get us in
figure out the
trouble,
number to pay?
You're going to get us in big trouble.
You're going to get us in trouble. We all have lots of thoughts about this.
This one has a lot of controversy.
Let's get into trouble. Let's tell all of the secrets.
First thing I would say, advice, if you're a new collector, stay away from that dealer. He will convince you to buy things you don't really want at prices you shouldn't pay. Daniel Warren Johnson's an absolute genius. $90,000 is obscene. That's an obscene price. It wouldn't do half that at auction, even broken up, in my opinion. I'm not an expert in the Daniel Warren Johnson market. The seller is happy. I hope the buyer's happy too, probably is. But there's no way to confirm that's the real price. He's very secretive. It's a lot of FOMO. It's the one place in original art where it isn't about, in my opinion, and I told him you're going to get me in trouble, it isn't about collecting and loving comic books. It's about placement, like the fine art world, like the bullshit they do in the fine art world, where you need this piece in your collection because I'm trying to build a false reality over this book or this cover or this artist. So I'm going to place it everywhere, and I'm going to place it in places where it's not going to be sold quickly, so I can maintain a kind of elevated price point. My preference is always, let's do it openly. Let's put it at auction. Let's see where the market is. Let everyone be fair about it. Yeah,
I think so. Daniel Warren Johnson's fantastic. Like, I mean, truly, like, he's probably at the top of our generation right now. So it's. Sorry, did I lose you guys?
Oh, you're back. You're back.
He's a great artist. I mean, there's no way around it. I I think that there's a tendency or a trend right now to do art drops and create hype. And I think that I get reluctant when there's hype around something. I think that you have to be careful around that stuff, because like I want people to be in the hobby because they enjoy it and want to be here long term, not because someone can make a buck off them quickly and, you know, go to the next person. So that's not a you know, a reprimand of any specific dealer or any rep, but I do think that there are people who are sort of known to do that. So just, if you're coming into the hobby, be wary of that. Find people that you trust and people that will give you good advice and tell you when not to buy something, just as much as when they will tell you and encourage you to buy something, right? Like, how many times has our group been like, that's way overpriced. Like, I know you love it. Just stop. Like, hold your horses, man. Like, this is not a good buy, right? So
if you're going to do it, be aware you're overpaying. Do it because you absolutely want it and you love it.
Yeah.
And it makes no financial sense.
Yeah. I had a buddy who came in and bought some artwork because there was a new character being hyped up as, oh my gosh, this was when you know, that Hulk, it was like the new Hulk that was going to come out, and it just turned out to be like Banner's, you know, like mental alter ego. And it's just, you know, when that gets hyped up as like, oh, this is the next big thing, I know that Marvel has plans for this type of stuff. Like, you probably don't want to buy into that stuff, right? Like, run from that stuff. Buy stuff that you know, like the save up. I always tell people, save up. Like, rather than buy like 10 impulse purchases, save up and buy one really good tried and true purchase, right? Buy that blue chip piece of art that you've just saved now from 10 purchases.
I'm going to speak more broadly, but personally, I don't do these drops. The conclusion I've come to is I'd rather pay a premium in a couple of years on something because it had staying power and people wanted it and they've continued to want it, than to jump on something just because I think it'll be more valuable. And there's the opportunity here, because I'm not a dealer. I'm not in the flipping business, like in that sense. So that's not something I'm going to do. I've known people that have gotten pretty burned by some of these types of drops. But at the same time, you know, I've gone after some of the things that were hyped up from this particular dealer. But as I said, years later, because the stories, you know, people still cared about the story, people still cared about the art. And I was willing to take a bigger risk in that sense, that it's costing more, but I know people care about it more. And, you know, Silver Surfer Black for Trad Moore, or like I own like the Absolute Carnage #1 cover and a couple other things that I think were big sales, relatively speaking, for those artists, but I wouldn't have been comfortable doing that on day one. So other people might be, but it's not what I do. And I know people that chase that stuff a lot of times have gotten burned.
Yeah.
What you're hearing from all three of us is we have friends who got taken advantage of and are upset, and we're upset for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So just find good advice when you come in, right? Like we want.
Well, that's why you guys are here to, you know, share that good advice. But questions I wanted to get while you guys were here. One here from Eggplant says, "Is it safe to display original art in direct sunlight?"
No.
These
are all copies.
Yep.
No.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh, they're good.
Yeah.
Is there any grace in the fact that it's a one of one? So if you spill coffee on it, it's still the original art.
Yeah. The price almost won't change. I mean, you could color it in. You'd have to get that far. You'd have to color it in.
Don't do that.
I mean,
if you put a coffee stain on something, it's going to sell for the same amount of money.
Yeah.
This stuff was not made to be.
Actually, wasn't there an interesting story of? Do I have this right? Is it a Todd McFarlane piece? Like, he wanted to change something on a piece of original art, and it was a big debate in the community of like, no, you can't add to your Hulk 340. But he's like, but it's mine. Of course I can add to it. But if people are like, no, you can't. Is that a story I'm making up? I can't remember.
No, that's true.
Jim Lee just did it too.
Jim Lee.
Yeah, Jim Lee just bought a piece. He bought a piece himself and then re-inked it.
Right.
And there was some, you know, back and forth on the community. Well, he was the original inker on this thing. He actually inked his own pencils on that piece originally. So does it really take away? It was, I don't think it took
Where do you
away.
guys stand with it?
But in that case, there was a piece of information that I think is important. The markers that he'd been using on that piece were not the ones he normally uses, and they'd faded. They'd been 20, 30 years. And so the piece was very faded. It didn't look at all like he intended to. Mm-hmm. So you could argue there's an element of conservation in that one.
Yeah. Where do we stand? It's a good question. I think if it's a piece that you really love and it's the only one out there, like you're going to chase it, right? Like there are pieces that I have where it's like, I wish it was a little sharper. I wish it like the inks didn't quite look the way they did, but it's the piece, right? And that's history. Like that's part of history. I don't know.
I would have preferred it faded myself.
Yeah.
As bad as it looked. It's the original. Barry Smith does that too. If he gets a hold of a page, he will go in and add a bunch of detail and re-ink it and change it. Their line changes, their voice changes. And so you see that change in the art. And I think that's the problem with it. Even Jim Lee, he's a genius. Him re-inking it didn't look quite the way it did when he was doing it in the 90s. Yeah. It looked like his modern style, a little more angular.
Cameron's got a good question here. What is all of your thoughts on one-of-one artist proofs for art that was originally digital?
So I can speak to that because I've purchased them myself. In the pieces that I've purchased, those are actually some of the regrets that I have are buying artist proof. And this is just me speaking from personal experience. A lot of times, an artist proof, the artist didn't do it with pencil and pen, right? Like they did it digitally, and they say that's the only artifact. The problem is they can say that and then they can print another one. And that's kind of the problem is with an artist proof, they say that it's one of one, but it only takes one bad actor to start a trend of reproducing them, and reprinting them. And I think that there's been some rumors of that happening actually.
Oh, really?
And I think that to me, it's just like, it's not worth it for me. So I pass on it.
I've never bought one. I've no interest in them. They're not the art. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Also, your value wise, it's like a car. Like if you ever want to get, so we will talk about value in this conversation, just in the event, like, hey, you need to get money out. We're not in this to like trade like stocks, right? That's not what we're trying to do. So I want to be clear on that. But I also, coming from a banker perspective, like I always think about what's my risk and how do I get my money out in an emergency situation? How do I get my money out of a bad loan, right? That's kind of what I think about. So in this case, an artist proof is you're not going to get your money out. That's just the reality of it. It's going to sell for a couple $100, usually $200 to $500, and you're maybe going to get, $50 to $200 out of it if you're lucky. The cool thing is you can enjoy it for what it is, right? And that's why I never want to tell someone how to collect. There's people who love artist proof and collect them because they're affordable and they're great. Like, awesome. Like I'm all for that. So it's just not for me. So from my perspective, it's just not for me.
We should also mention art's not as liquid as comics. It doesn't because you don't have the market data. The comps are a little harder. If I was to sell this cover, the Cap 6 cover, people would think, okay, what's the value? It sold last to me several years ago. It's been a long time since there's been data. If I was to sell a Hulk 181, this copy's being sold every day. So you find ones that close to your grade or the same grade, and you've got data in the last 30 days, probably multiple sales for a book like that. You know exactly what the market is. You can feel very comfortable about the price you need to pay, or if you're paying under or over that. For art, it takes a little while. That's why auctions are good too, because it lets the market see where everyone is. It makes things easy for everybody to feel comfortable about.
Transparency and data points, I think, are really important in the hobby.
Yeah, but everyone, if anyone's considering going into art versus books, it's liquid. It's just not as liquid as comics. They should factor that in.
Yeah.
Buy it because you love it.
That's kind of been my experience of like if I walk into a comic shop and there's a well-priced Hulk 181, like I'll buy it, no questions asked. But if there's a well-priced piece of art that I kind of like I may even skip on that because it's like I don't even know. Like if like you said, Mike, it's like it's not that I'm trying to flip or trade. It's like, but if life happens and I just need to free up some cash, like I want to know that I can do that in somewhat of a reasonable 100%. Amount of time.
Yeah, and especially at the, Dinesh always gave me good advice when I was starting out. He said, like at the levels that we're buying, like the price point that we're buying, it would be irresponsible if we didn't think about that, right? People will always tell you, just buy what you love. And I think that that's not great advice. Like that's partially good advice, right? Like what I always tell people is buy that, like the Venn diagram, like think about what you love here and what other people love. And that overlap is usually what you can resell, right? Like if you need to resell in a pinch, buy what you love and other people love, because that's usually what holds value.
Or even if you've got kids, your kids are going to have to sell it down the road. If you're going to hold it and keep it for your life, it's a burden on other people. You got to think about that. There's some older collectors that we know that are going through that right now. They're thinking about, I've got 10, 15 more good years. My kids are grown up. Let me ask them, do you care about this? No? Okay, I'll have fun selling it for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And then it won't be a burden for them.
Yep.
Yeah. Comics Explained has a good question here. If you could commission a piece from any artist, past or present, which artist would it be? And I'd actually like to add to that question. Maybe just talk to me a little bit about commission pieces versus published art.
Sure.
Andrew, who would you get a commission from?
Commission. Ditko.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a really good answer.
What'd you get?
Spider-Man Ditko?
Yeah, probably. To be honest, I was going to think of something else to say, but no, it's probably Spider-Man. I mean, he was so creative, and there was only one guy like him, and that would be it. No brainer for me.
Yeah, that's great. How about you, Dinesh?
And for to answer your other question before we for commissions versus published pieces, I don't buy commissions. I've done it once for fun, but I assumed that money was gone the moment I handed it over. So some people do sell commissions and are able to get their money out, or maybe whatever. But my experience has been, it's sort of like driving a car off a lot. That piece is for you. It's the thing you asked for from that artist, and it's the story and whatever. But most of the people that buy in the space want an image that has been in a book or elsewhere, something that's recognizable.
Published. They want published.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the value, the money you're paying when you commission, is to meet the artist, is to have a dialogue with the artist, is to be part of the creative process. So when those things are checked off, when they're done, and someone's trying to get rid of the commission, the person buying it, they don't get those elements. So you've got to factor that in. But man, commissioning is fun. I can't think of who I would. I think for me, it might be because I work in publishing and I get to play that game all day long. We just did a big book, Planet Death, and we were doing our variant program, and it was a blast for the team and I to just be like, who we can go nuts on this one. Who do we want? We want Assad Ribic. Let's go get Assad. That would be awesome. We want Jay Lee. Let's go get Jay Lee. So I guess maybe the name that comes to mind is Jim Lee, because he's ungettable in publishing. He only does work for DC because he's their publisher. So I guess Jim Lee.
Yeah. I also don't really do a lot of commissions. I did do one recently, and it was specifically a Mannix recreation of Ultimate Fallout 4. And those are a little bit unique because Mannix, when he does one of those, they're so vibrant and beautiful, and he only does one for whatever piece it is, right? So once he does Ultimate Fallout 4, it's done. It's off the table, right? So it's kind of like still getting that one of one situation that I love. So there was kind of a race this last year where it's like, oh, someone's got to get Star Wars 1 and someone's got to get New Mutants 98 and like someone's got to get the ASM 300, right? So because it's like he just does the one piece, and I love that. And these guys are right. The experience is what you're paying for, right? Like Mannix is just a rad human, and I love his energy and just his sweetness. Like he's such a good dude. His rep is Jiggy Cruz, who we love. Jiggy, just a great guy. So I loved kind of investing in Mannix in that way, like giving money to a guy that I love what he's doing. I would say though, like expect same thing. There's great commission collectors, but expect that you're not gonna get your money out dollar for dollar on something like that.
And I definitely don't want to discourage people from doing it, in the sense that it's a great way to support artists you care about. They don't get paid enough, and a lot of them let their artwork go too early and their published stuff. And when they're going for crazy prices on Heritage, they're not seeing a cent of that.
Totally.
So
I kind of think of like commissions to me as like I reframe my thought to it, where it's like it's just furniture for me, or it's like, oh, I have a space on my wall that is like art.
Totally.
It's like, if you're going to buy art for your living room, I mean, it's like that's how I treat a commission. It's like it's not something I'm thinking about value. It's just I need to buy furniture for this space.
Yeah.
But to answer that question, I think I would definitely get Alex Schomburg to do a cover swipe of Suspense 3 for my comic book,
I love it.
which is kind of like a little bit of a cheat. It's like kind of in Dinesh's, your publishing world, but it's like, yeah, if I could get him to do an homage of his own cover of my comic book, I mean, that would be pretty awesome.
But that makes a lot of sense, right? We're both of our heads go there, and I'm thinking about it too. A lot of the best commissions I've seen are people that have sketchbooks, and it becomes a memento of a convention they went to. They go and get 10 sketches from 10 different artists. They go to another convention, get 10 more, and they've got this book now that is their comics journey. Or I've seen people go, I have one thing that I do. I've got a buddy. He's got this baby photo. It's the ugliest baby photo you've ever seen of any child. No joke. You can't oversell this thing. And he has artists do commissions of his ugly baby photo. And he's got a whole book of just that baby photo. Yeah. And then some people
having little special themes like that.
Yeah. Some people just purpose. One of my favorite things to do with when I hang out with artists at the end of a show is say to them, what's the dirtiest commission you got asked? The one that you said, even I won't do that for money. And they always have horrible stories, horrible things.
I know someone who has, wherever they go, they get a commission of the same character from every artist they can, and artists that they wish would draw this character. And so they have a book of all that. And it's really cool to see just the character, just all the different versions by all the different artists. And it's exciting for him because, again, like, you don't always get the artist you want on the book you want, and it's a way to get that.
Bailey does that. Our buddy Bailey brings his son Powers to conventions, and Powers is a big Pokemon fan, and so they go get like Art Adams will do a Pokemon.
So cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about this other piece you got right here. Going back to the Thunderbolts theme of the show, I think Mike, this is one that you sent me.
This is it's funny. So I remember I hunted down Inhumans 5 page, and I was like so excited. I'm like, I've got a piece of Yolena, her first ever. This is so cool. It's like her first interior, right? She's not on the cover of Inhumans 5, so this is the first ever. And then some comic sleuths found out that she was actually published in a Wizard insert for Marvel Knights. So it's a Marvel Knights 2 insert in Wizard magazine, and this was the cover. There she is on that right side of Black Panther, or his left, but our right. And she's kind of cloaked in the shadow there. You see just one eyeball. I have no idea what that weird robotic hand is below her. It's just such a weird piece, but this is like, it's Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti. I mean, the piece is rad. It's so gorgeous and detailed. And there's Yolena, like first ever published image right there.
And again,
that's pretty
Mike
cool.
is the only person I know that would be able to find this. I have no idea how he did, but he did.
Dude, it was in Italy, actually, of all places. Like,
there you go.
It was a collector in Italy, and he was like, I've got this really nice Quesada cover. And he was selling it to me at that price because it was a really, really nice Quesada cover. And I was like, that's not why I'm buying it. But like, I'm very excited to have it.
It's a beautiful, that composition's hard.
Yeah.
Really nice composition, really nice rendering. Palmiotti and Quesada are so good together.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's
an interesting kind of conversation, Mike, about the interior cover versus them on the cover. Right. Obviously, in comic books, it's always like a debate, like, well, clearly you want Iron Man 55 because that's the first appearance of Thanos. But if he's not on the cover, when you buy the original art, does then that original art cover become more important, or is the interior panel the more important one?
It's hard to say. I mean, different collectors collect differently, right? So for me, I want like a page. So I should put out this disclaimer too. I should clarify. I look at any page from a character's first issue as a first appearance page. I don't care if it's the first page or the last page. If it's in that issue, that it's the comic book, I say that's a first appearance page, right? We don't know that the artist always works sequentially, so we don't always know what order it was done first. We assume that, but it's,
very interesting.
Yeah, but you don't always know that that's the case. So to me, I look at I'll say a first appearance page, and it could be any page with that character on it from that book. To me, there's like sort of like a hierarchy, right? I was just reading a thread on one of the forums, and I just kind of like eavesdropping to see what people were saying. And I agree with one of the posters who kind of created like a hierarchy on it. And their layout was like, if it's the cover and the character, that's the pinnacle, right? Like that's the very best you can get. Then from there, I look at it for me as the very best example of that issue. And I'll give you an example like Spider-Punk. His first image is not great. It's okay. It's like kind of stick figurey, and then he's got a head on one of the panels. But the very next page is this awesome splash, and he's just like fully like debuts in that page. I'd rather have that page any day of the week than the page before where he technically shows up first. Does that make sense?
I'd rather have the first page.
Yeah.
It's different. People are different, which is great because Mike and I can share.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. It's funny. I was just talking to Dinesh about a trade today where someone has the very first images of a character that's pretty well known and has been in a lot of X-Men movies, and they're interested in a page of mine. And I'm like, I don't know which I want. This is this character's first ever panel, which Dinesh loves. And I'm kind of like, but this other thing is like this character's moment, right? Like I have a page with Magic, and she's like, it's from X-Men 160, and she's being lured into limbo by, was it Belasco? Like the demon, right? Like, so that's her first time she's ever named. She shows up in Giant Size X-Men before and a couple like weird death robot type panels, but that's really her first issue. So I like that page, but I'm back and forth on this one.
Well, what about this page you sent over, Andrew? I think that's the Century right there. What's this one from?
So this is from Siege. I love getting stuff from crossover events, and I remember this one fondly. And I don't love every version of the Void. Like there are some where he looks like a T-Rex mixed with a squid or whatever. But I really liked Olivier's version of the Void, and this was the big opening splash. I think the final issue of when he's just rocking everybody. And one of the reasons I sent this over to you, because I have a lot of Century stuff and trying to figure out, what to do for this thing, is as soon as the trailer came out, I got a message on CAF by somebody, and they're like, your picture, your page is in the trailer. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I go and turn the trailer, and it's funny when you think about this stuff, because clearly there are conversations happening with filmmakers about, how they put shots together or whatever. And it makes sense that inspiration would be drawn from the comic book pages, right? And so if you have the trailer in mind and you think about the Void, they have this shot up at the Void and he's coming down, his hands out like this. I don't see how this wasn't the inspiration for that shot. Above the city, everyone down below him, the Void kind of wiping everything out with his hand out. And so it's really cool to see their version of that. And this is the page, or the 2 pages, right? There was no way I would know that would have been the case, that they would draw inspiration from it. It's just, I like crossover events. I like the character. I thought the artwork was really cool in this, and I picked it up. And it's one of those things where it's not a character that a lot of people cared about, but I saw it in someone's CAF gallery, and I pulled a page out of Mike's book where I just kept messaging him, like, let's figure something out. And it took, I don't know, about a year, but eventually we worked something out and I got it.
It's a great page, dude. It's awesome.
This is a splash, like a full double splash, right?
It's a double page spread, yeah.
But look at that. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it when when pages are like not heavily inked, but like have a lot of the blacks and stuff, right? Because it feels like some pages have like a very light blacks in ink. We were talking about the fading earlier, but this is like so deep and rich in that sense, so you get a lot out of it. But is it as simple as like, generally speaking, is a splash page always going to be kind of more expensive than, say, a page that has a bunch of panels on it, that sort of thing? Everybody's obviously looking for like, a major centerpiece of their character. Would you guys agree with that in general?
in general, Splash is going to be more expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. So in general, like the cover is usually the most expensive. That a double page kind of spread, like that's a splash, will be like the next thing. And then like the title page splash, and then a regular splash, and then a panel. There used to be rules about exactly what the multiple was. At least there seemed to be remnants of one when I was coming into space. Those rules are now kind of being broken.
Yep.
It's a lot of like generally speaking. But for example, for me, I prefer this than the cover of this particular Siege issue. And so if you gave me both, I'd choose this every time. That might not be the case for everybody, but I guess newer collectors are starting to figure out, what they want, and not necessarily find themselves kind of constricted by the rules started by what I call the Frank Miller generation.
Yeah.
This also has more going for it than just being a double page spread, because it's a big moment in the story.
Yeah.
And when there are exceptions to splash versus panel pages, usually because there's some story moment that's really impactful, or a first appearance, or sometimes nostalgia. People like, this moment meant a lot to me. We got another friend of ours, Shaheen. He's a doctor, a urologist, and so any time that there is art that contains the anatomy that he is professionally involved in, he will have it. He'll buy it. He'll put it in his office. There's a lot of members in his office. well rendered members.
Yep.
Well, tell me about this one, Dish. You sent over this. I think, is this also from the Captain America issue, or
no?
This is Inhumans 5.
Inhumans, yeah. This is Yolena's first appearance.
And you have the color here as well. So
that's just the printed page. Because on the printed page, she says, actually, if you go back to it, what panel is it on? The last panel. I'm the Black Widow, and this is her first story appearance, second appearance after Mike's cover on that book. And I got this from you, didn't I, Mike?
Yep.
You probably know a lot about this that I don't.
There's one more interior that we've never found. So out of the 3 pages that she's on, this is 2 or 3, and yeah, I loved this because, again, like, you have to kind of imagine when this book came out, everyone's thinking like, oh, Natasha, that's Black Widow. Who is this blonde girl coming onto the scene who nobody knows, shrouded in mystery? And she's now saying she's the Black Widow. Like, what the heck is going on? So, I mean, this is such a cool moment for this character, and for readers to like kind of be introduced to like a total badass, right? And like, I love Florence Pugh as Yolena has been, to me, like one of the brightest, like shining stars in the MCU. Like, she is fantastic and can act her way through anything. And like, I just cannot wait to see her in Thunderbolts. Like, I've heard she is phenomenal and has really kind of carried a lot of the heavy lifting moments. So plus that jump scene. Have you guys seen the behind the scenes on that?
Wow.
Second highest
she like did a real stunt.
Yeah. Jumps off the second highest building in the world. Had to convince Marvel to let her do it. That's crazy.
For the opening, right? That's the opening scene in the movie.
Dude, I love her. I fell in love with her acting in a movie called Midsummer, which is dark and disturbing,
Crazy.
And also beautifully shot throughout the entire film. But she's a force, man. I love Florence.
She's hilarious also as Yelena. She's really funny.
This
page,
yeah.
Hawkeye. Yeah,
Hawkeye. She's great in Hawkeye.
Hey, Desha, this is not cutlery.
Mike tracked these down. To Andrew's point, Mike tracked these down. I don't know how he does it. And then the great thing about, we were talking earlier about the community, is Mike was on the Yelena train way before she was in film and TV. I didn't really know her. I hadn't read that many books of hers. In Hawkeye, she's hilarious. She's amazing. You fall in love with that character. And Mike is so kind. He's like, hey, I'm going to move some money over here. Do you want anything? I think you should buy this page. Give me a very fair price on it. And for me, it means a lot more because this is a page my buddy found. This is a page my buddy thought of me for. Yeah. I love the character now, which happens a lot with me and Mike. Is he's usually on board with these newer characters earlier than I am. He's a little faster at reading than me. He's more well-read in comics. When you work in comics all day, the last thing you want to do is pick up a Marvel book and read it. So for me, this means a lot.
Yeah, it's cool.
So Mike, when you're hunting down like a page like that, and it's like, let's say you find it, and you're sliding into the DMs, like, is your opening line like, would you take X, or are you saying, are you like trying to get them to tell you the price? Do you want to come with the price, or do you want them to tell you the price?
Trade secrets.
Okay, so I in my graduate school classes, I took a class on negotiation, and one of the things that they said was you shouldn't set the price first. That you should let the other person price, because if you set the price first, then you anchor your whole negotiation around that. In comic art, what I found is it's a little different. A lot of times you may have one shot at a piece before you lose communication altogether, because a collector's just like, you're not worth my time, or I'm not interested, or I don't need to respond to you. You reached out to me, so out of courtesy, you should come with a price. That's the mindset of a lot of people, and that's fair. So typically what I will do, and I'm sure people watching have received messages from me, so no secret. I will typically say, I'm interested in purchasing your piece. I really like it. Would you be interested in parting with it now or in the future? That at least lets me know the mindset of the other person, right? Or would you be open to an offer is sometimes what I would say. Would you be open to an offer? And they can respond. You may not get a response, and you just have to be okay with not getting a response sometimes. So if you do get a response and they say, I'm open to offers, I'm always open to offers. If someone's going to offer me $1 million, like, I would be foolish not to at least think about whatever offer someone is willing to make. So if they're willing to make an offer, then I actually go and do research, and I say, okay, here's where I think this page is valued based on X, Y, and Z. Sometimes it's like character tiers. I think, Yolena is kind of in that character tier with like Kate Bishop, right? Or like maybe not quite Kamala Khan, but kind of right around there. Like, how do I value this character in the grand scheme of things? So I'll do research, and I'll try to find comps. Like, I'll try to find what's a reasonable offer, because I'm not the guy who's going to go out and try to screw somebody over. Like, I will offer a fair price, and what I think is fair, I would like to get it at a discount under market if I'm not getting it through an auction where they're going to be charged fees. So typically I'll discount the fees from the auction, because I think that that's a fair practice. But that's usually my offer. I'll look at a comp, discount the auction fees, and then that would be my offer.
Very fair way to do it.
That'd be a technique, Andrew, you use for acquiring this piece right here?
No. Funny story about this is I got it from a dealer, and then Mike had reached out to me. He's like, hey, do you want to get drinks or dinner? And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, that dealer will be there. I'm like, awesome. So I went there, and then Dinesh was there, and he pulls the page out of the bag. He's like, you're the guy who bought it? And I'm like, yep. He's like, here you go. So it was Dinesh's page.
Yeah.
And there's the first day I met Dinesh. So it just so happens now that Sentry's a cool character in a movie, so that's another reason I'd never get rid of it. But so it's cool to have that page connected to the first day I met this guy. But yeah, this is from Sentry #1, his first appearance. And the thing I liked about this page particularly is the Void only appears in 2 pages in the book. He just makes his appearance, his kind of presence known by speaking through this dog. It's in a splash page before this, and then this panel page where Sentry kind of makes him go away in his kind of breakdown moment. And so when it comes to first appearance of the Void, there's only 2 pages, and this is one of them. And again, it's not one of those situations where like there was a lot of demand for the Void until maybe like a couple months ago. But it just, I guess I got lucky in that regard, where I just ended up with one of the 2 pages of the book, which people will learn in a minute happened to me with the Winter Soldier as well. So yeah, and I love Jaylee's work on this book, and I thought this book was really creative. I like the idea behind it, and I'm glad this character got an awesome actor. And what I hear is they did a pretty good job with it in the film.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Is it same for this one here? Is this also from Century 1?
Cap 6.
No, that's Cap 6. That's page 1, and that's the first page the Winter Soldier appears on.
I did not know you had this page. This is gorgeous.
And it's one of those, it's one of those situations where, Mike would have been able to find this page, I didn't find this page. It just so happened in the early days when we were just all stuck at home, I'd occasionally do those like dueling dealer things like Calf would do. Yeah. And they were doing one, and it was one of the heated ones they were doing where they were selling things back and forth. They were just pulling things out. And Anthony just pulled this out, and he came up with a number that he thought was stupid because at that time, Steve Epstein's Captain America pages weren't selling for that much. And I'm like, I know where the other page is. It's on Calf. The guy says it's never for sale, and he's had it forever. So if I want one of the first appearance pages of Winter Soldier, this is the only one that's possible. And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And people hesitated for like 5 seconds. I didn't. And so now I have it. And I wish I could tell you like some story about how to find stuff like this. It was literally just dumb luck. And now I have it. And the thing that's cool is, to me, I read the book originally. I thought, I thought it was good. Winter Soldier wasn't a character I cared about that much after reading it. And then the film comes out, and I'm like, oh no, this character's awesome. And it's one of my top 3 Marvel films. Depending on the day, it'll be somewhere, the order changes. Some days it's 1, some days it's 3, but it's definitely in the top 3. And what was cool about that film, where they kind of made this spy thriller in a way that you didn't really realize a comic book movie could be. It's the same thing with the art from this book. Like, if you gave the script over to a filmmaker, I think you look at the shots that they would create. It's very much how he did the art for this book, and I love how it kind of flows and how it builds things up. It's very cinematic to me. So I think it's really, really cool. And it's the first time, we get to see him in his costume, going out and doing Winter Soldier shit, throwing someone in the trunk of a car,
So cool.
Awesome.
I guess the moral of the story is the carpe diem, right? It's like you said, you didn't find it, but like the opportunity presented itself and you like jumped on it.
I can't tell you how many times the opportunities presented myself, and then I'm like, let me think about it. And then the next day I was gone. That's not to say you should always jump on everything, because I've also jumped on stuff and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, that was the worst impulse buy. But that's unfortunately the way things are when there's only one of something. And if you collect first appearances, you don't always get lucky when it's like a character like Bane, where there's so many pages to choose from for that book. Sometimes there's only 2 or 3 pages. And if it shows up, like, that's it. So that's how
which is why you need a list. You can't make an impulse buy in art. It's too much money, not as liquid as books. The data isn't there, so you shouldn't make impulse buys. But you got to be quick when something comes up, like Andrew is. That's where a list is important. If you've got a list and you go, I know I want one of the 2 pages from Cap 6, if I could ever get a hold of one, and it comes up, you don't have to think about it. You're like, yes, it's on my list. Let me go for it.
Yep.
Yeah, these two have talked about this a lot on shows and stuff, on podcasts. And I think it's a really important point to kind of actually think about what it is that you want as a collector, because you may have to make a decision pretty quickly. You're at a convention or something, and it's there. And if you're thinking about it for the first time in that moment, you may not be able to, make a good decision. But if you've at least identified, these are the characters I care about, these are the artists I care about, like blah, 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 and at least create some kind of framework for your collecting, you'll be able to make, at least educated decisions, and hopefully they'll work out for you.
Yeah. When Dinesh and I bought the Ultimate Fallout 4 cover, I had chased that thing for about a year, and it's, just been in contact with the guy who sold it, and he was getting time payments from the new buyer. And I got a call in a parking lot, and it was like, hey, the guy's willing to let it go today. He has an opportunity. It's going to be double what you thought it was. And I need an answer today because I'm going to go on to the next guy if you pass on it. So I literally had to make a decision for a massive investment of money. But I knew that was on my list, and talking with Dinesh, and like we walked through that together just over the phone. I was able to make a decision in like 15 minutes, call the guy back and say, yeah, we'll take it. Right. And then Dinesh came in with me on that because it was more than I could afford. And so we bought that thing 50-50, and we share, the last 5 years since we've owned it has been just such a fun adventure.
Yeah.
We've traveled the world with that piece, which is just so cool.
Yeah. It's amazing you guys own that piece. And also the Edge of the Spider-Verse 2 and stuff. And like when I saw it in person at OAX was a joy. But like, Yeah, that's such a really good piece of advice, or at least that resonates with me, Andrew. Like creating the framework, because like a lot of times, like you said, it's like you have to make this decision in the heat of a Comic Con or wherever you are, and it's almost like you want to have like this kind of muscle memory. It's like
Yeah.
I know what my budget is, I know the
Yeah.
characters I like,
Yeah.
I know the comps because I've spent time outside of these things looking at stuff on Heritage, and so you're sort of like the instincts kick in of like, oh, this is within that wheelhouse, and I can see how that could be such a valuable a mindset to take into this.
I can't tell you how many times I see a dealer like update their website and they have a list of stuff and I'm kind of going through it slowly and I'm thinking about this and thinking about that. And then I go and I message with Mike and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this thing? He's like, I already messaged him for an offer and someone got me there before I did. So like that's just the way it is. So you have to kind of have an idea of what it is that you want. And unfortunately, sometimes you just got to, be in a place where you can pull a trigger quickly. And again, I'm not recommending you just pull the trigger on everything you get. You see it and go like, ooh, that's shiny. Just it has to come from a place of this is something I want, and you have to know why you want it.
Yeah.
But the list doesn't. There's a flip side to the list that's equally important. It tells you when to pass, right? Because if you see something and you're like, oh, that's cool, and it's I could afford that, but it's not on your list, you should take a second.
Yeah.
And if you lose it, actually good, because if it wasn't on your list, you should stay focused.
Yeah.
For me personally, I think the important thing about the list also is it doesn't work for me just to have a book, because I've made the mistake of getting a book and like a page from a book I want shows up and it's not the right page, but it's a page, and I'll pull the trigger on it and then I'll regret having it because it's not. It didn't have the character I wanted or whatever it is. Like I highly suggest if you have a book that you want, go through the pages and actually look at every page and at least have in your mind, like this page, not this page, this page, not this page. Because I found myself so many times, like just the wrong page from the right book.
Yep. One thing I will say though, like our group will occasionally stray from our own individual lists because we'll do what's something like pretty novel in our hobby. We'll do like group buys where we'll, there's 20 plus of us in a chat group every day that, is ongoing. And we'll put together, someone will find some opportunity where it's like, hey, the artist has all the pages from this thing. Do you guys want to all go in on it together? And then we'll grab it together. And that's a real fun experience too. And that's like, you're getting something that's fun, may not be on your original list, but you're getting this experience with collectors. That's just really cool. And I love those.
With your buds. You get to play with your buds. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's good to have people to talk to and go to advice for. And so, that's why hopefully, if people don't have that, they get this advice via the internet right here.
Yeah.
One last little thing before I kind of put some bows on some stuff, but I wanted to ask Dinesh, I made that video about you buying those Marvel trading cards, the original art, the Jesco pieces, and kind of on the reverse side of what Mike is talking about, where, he's, making the offer and stuff. Once that offer is through, one thing that I saw you do or learn from you was that you were like, once they said, yes, I'm open to the offer and here's the number, you passed. It's like, didn't give them time to say no, change their mind. Actually, let me think about that. Let me sit on this, because I guess talk to me a little bit about that, just
because what
to not let them change their mind.
I mean, if you want it, you don't want the opportunity to go. But also for the other person, I've had this situation a lot where someone will think about it, they'll come back, they'll say, actually, no, I'm okay. I'm like, cool, you want to keep it? No problem. I'll go find something else. I'll scratch the itch some other place. They'll come back and they'll be like, actually, now I want to do it. I can't. I don't want to anymore. I bought this other thing instead. Then they can get a little upset. So you want to make sure when the decision's made, you're closing it because it's a one of one. And then I have a relationship that guy that I bought those trading cards from. We're buds now. There was another piece he was looking for. I helped him find that piece. If he came back and he's like, I've made a mistake, would you consider undoing the deal? Yeah, no problem. I'm not trying to make anyone upset. But you want to lock it in quickly because they're one of ones. People can overthink. They can have second thoughts. They can make the situation not great for everybody.
Well, speaking of amazing art pieces, there's this cool new book out. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It's called Planet Death by Bad Idea. I want to talk about the comic really quick and give you a shout out, Dinesh. But really quick, what's up with this art? Where's who owns the cover? Where is that? You know, is
That's
that
so
something
funny.
that's going to be for sale?
Literally 2 minutes ago, the artist Thomas Giorello texted me. Essential Sequential. He never had an art rep, so we tried to get him some professional. Jason at Essential Sequential represents a bunch of major artists, and Thomas have paired up. They're actually just trying to figure out. It looks like maybe next week they'll put them up on Essential Sequential. They're just trying to figure out which pages we'll let them put up. Issue 0 just came out yesterday, so that one's fine. So if you're interested in Thomas's art, that we have a policy at Bad Idea. None of the employees are allowed to buy any of the art until 6 months after release. I imagine these will go real quick, so it'll be all fans. But Essential Sequential is where it'll be at.
Yeah, it's so funny if they can go. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was saying that cover's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send you a screenshot, Dinesh. I actually inquired from Essential Sequential about this cover.
that cover is awesome. Hold on, let me show you. No one's seen it yet. It just came the other day. I'm gonna get in trouble, but let me show you the issue 2 cover because I'm really proud of that one too.
Oh gosh.
Thomas just finished it this week. We went back.
He's so talented.
A bunch on.
All right, let me see if I can make it big. Oh, there you go. Wow.
Isn't that cool? Okay, too much. I'll get in trouble.
Right. Yeah. Somebody take a screenshot.
But it's good. Yeah, right? I mean, he's a talent. He's a real talent.
Yeah, it's a really amazing artwork. Congratulations on the success, and definitely everyone go check out Planet Death. That came out yesterday, right?
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks
yeah. And it's interesting. It's like you talk about notoriety, recognizability. 655,000 copies. This is like the number one indie book.
That was before FOC. It went up to 909,650 copies. Almost hit 1 million.
That is ridiculous. Wow. And then you guys have this video, which I wanted to make a video about it, but I didn't have time to. But we're gonna watch it now. I mean, tell me about this. Look at this print. Look at the amount of printing you guys had to do for all these books.
It was so
crazy.
We got the final number in. I was on the phone for a week with the printer. We didn't have enough paper. This special newsprint that we've got, there wasn't enough. There was another publisher, not in comics, that had the same paper, and they weren't printing for a month. They let us use their stock, and then we've restocked them since. But 909,650. The problems you have when you have print runs like this is wild. Great champagne problem. I mean, comics don't sell these things enough. And it's the art. It's the story that Rob and Derek have put together. It's the John Wick connection. It's our return to publishing, our first time wide, I think, as well.
Yeah, so the slogan of the book is, what is it? Destroy the weapon, go home, right?
Yeah, destroy the weapon, return home. It's an awesome story. The battalion of soldiers is dropped on an alien planet, destroy this big weapon. They get wiped out. There's one guy left. And he's going to do the mission on his own. So you see the whole book is you see him crossing over this terrain, enemy territory, natural predators. He's got to get into this big facility. It's a killer story.
The collector mantra is going to be destroy the print count and go to the moon. I don't know. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for 900,000 copies to all be worth $1 million.
Well, you know what a lot of retailers are doing is because we timed it right before Free Comic Day, they're going to be giving them out so people can get a taste of the book and then hopefully jump onto 1, 2, 3, and 4. But there is a Joe Quesada triptych, a wraparound gatefold, 1 in 500. So if there's people looking for something to collect, that one's it's a beautiful book. That's
awesome. Well, congratulations on that. And yeah, it's Free Comic Book Day this Saturday, guys. So, if you're watching, remember, head over to your LCS. I think it's a big day for a lot of LCSs, and it's a lot of fun. And go pick up Planet Death. Actually, and maybe go pick up the original art to Planet Death. We'll have to get the inside info of when that stuff goes for sale, Dinesh.
Yeah, I'll find out today. I'll text you. So you can blast it out there. We'll tweet it out. We'll do an email. We'll help Thomas. I'm very excited for him to be selling his art. He's worked hard on this book.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I mean, I know that you guys are eager to watch the Thunderbolts later this evening, but I thought we should maybe wrap it up now. Shout out to everyone in the chat for hanging out. If anyone has any last minute questions that they want to throw to these guys while we got them, please ask away. But fellas, I guess original art, Thunderbolts. Any last words? Any last little pearls of wisdom for everyone to take home with, or I guess any thoughts going into Thunderbolts?
I think not just Thunderbolts, but for art, like if you're collecting comics right now and thinking about art, there is something for everyone in this hobby, and it's just like, it's so much fun. I'm having more fun collecting art than I ever did in any other hobby I've been a part of. And this group of guys has just been such a blast to walk through, not just collecting, but life with. And so I can't recommend it enough, guys. Come hang out with us at a show. We're always in San Diego. Dinesh is at like every convention, so you can find him everywhere. So, but yeah, truly, like if you're thinking about it, feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to share some insight and help you get into your first piece too.
Yeah, agreed. We've helped so many people that are like, I don't know where to start with original art. This is the book I want. I don't know where those pages are. And we go, you know what? I think I could figure out where that is. Let me find out who it is and connect you with that person. We're happy to do that for anybody.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe Andrew, got any little last words of wisdom or?
Nothing that hasn't already been said. I mean, just to do a callback to the beginning, to give you an example, when we were coming into the space, and maybe a couple years before me, but around when Dinesh was coming, like if you wanted X-Men art, like John Byrne was probably the top stuff you could get, right? Jim Lee stuff no one really wanted it until relatively recent. I mean, they always wanted, but not on that level, right? And just because something isn't the thing that's selling at Heritage for a lot of money, if it's something you really think is cool and other people think it's cool, trust your gut and go after it. That's kind of the beautiful thing about this hobby is, there's more art always coming out, and there are still people reading books, even though I made the joke before, people aren't. And this stuff, a lot of people care about it. The MCU is not going away, no matter what the YouTube thumbnail of whatever video says that's coming out after this movie. And just don't be so scared to be making decisions. A lot of people get gun shy and don't know when to jump in. And the water's fine. So.
All right, well said. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time today. Shout out to everyone once again in the chat. I got the link to the guys' socials down below, but I think they've already opened it up to you guys if you guys want to send them a message or slide into the DMs. By all means, do it. These guys have great advice when it comes to original art. But gentlemen, once again, thanks so much for joining. We'll have to do more shows talking about art because I still have a lot more questions that I want to ask you guys, especially about pricing and making deals and all that. But we'll have to do it again.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Shout out to everyone. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next stream.